So I had a decision to make, and it was just give up and go back or put some money in and try again. At that point, I had gone through a divorce. So I was on my own. I own the dental practices, but nonetheless, it was really being on my own and saying, all right, do I want to take this risk? And I decided to go ahead and do it. That was in February of 2020. I think moving through a transition like that, you just realize things about yourself. I realized I love being out here and being a little bit more remote. It got my mind thinking, and I started thinking about what did I want to do? What did I want to do with this company?
Welcome to Business Origin Stories. I'm Amy Schutte, your guide to crafting a magnetic message for a profitable business. This is the podcast for you if you're ready to claim the transformative power of your own origin story and use it to create a brand that finally stands out. We're here to level up, but more importantly, I'm here to help you elevate your influence, your community, and your impact on the world. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening. And remember, the stories you tell yourself are your greatest currency. Hello, welcome back to Business Origin Stories. Today I'm talking to Dr. Amanda Lewis. She has run a dental practice for over 2 decades and is now pivoting into creating a product-based company for oral health and beauty called Lewie. It's a brand designed to help people achieve their most confident, radiant smile. Amanda is pivoting in her 40s. She's starting over. She's doing it her way. And she's really creating a paradigm shift here and shifting this idea that oral health should be in the beauty department. So this is a really fun conversation. Amanda goes deep. She dives into starting a product-based business, what it was like to untangle herself from the day-to-day busyness of being a service provider as a dentist, doing life differently with her kids, launching her product. If she could go back in time, what would she do? I mean, Amanda gives us all the goods. So if you have a service-based business or you're starting a product-based brand, this is a great episode to listen to because she really gives some amazing tips that I know you're going to absolutely love. I got to try her products, the Lewie products, and they're so good. So with that, let me introduce you to Dr. Amanda Lewis. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for being here with us today. Can you tell everyone where you are right now?
Right now, I am in the middle of a trip that is launching my company, Lewie, and I am at the Bespoke Inn in downtown Scottsdale, Arizona. It's like a quiet little oasis for me. I found it during COVID and ended up spending some time here. And it was just the innkeeper and his partner and very few other people. It was like having my own little vacation place. So they've got a small lap pool. There's a restaurant that's on site that is open just in the evenings. I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday through Saturday. So this time that I'm here with my kids, that there's not very many people here because it's pretty warm in Scottsdale in July. But again, there's a lovely pool and it feels like a private escape to a European villa. I absolutely love it. So Bespoke Inn, Scottsdale, Arizona, they have a sister property in Flagstaff that the kids and I are going to go visit for the first time tomorrow.
Ooh, this is a good marketing plug for them. So we'll tag them on our show notes.
Yes, I can't say enough. They're just great people.
And you have a cool business connection with them too. I know we're going to dive into all of that today, but give us like a tiny peek. What are you doing there? What's your connection with them besides being the oasis to hang out?
So I got to know the manager of the inn here in Scottsdale, and I had sent them some samples of Lewie just to use for, to see what people thought. Do they like them? And I did a little kickoff launch with some dentists here last summer when I was still trying to figure out what this business was going to be, basically. Before I had much of a team, I was trying to do a lot of it myself, which is difficult. Actually, it was 2 summers ago. Gosh, time flies. But they have agreed to carry Lewie as a gift for their visitors. So once we have our product in for our flossing discs, we will be having those available here for all of the visitors, for all the guests. And we're excited about that partnership. It's one that's very near and dear to me just because of how much time I've spent here. I've done quite a bit of training out at a dental facility here in Scottsdale, and now I have the privilege of being able to mentor when I'm out here. So being able to do that, it's like it brings me back, and I love connecting with the people here at the Bespoke. So yeah, you can get some Lewie if you come out and visit with them and stay. So
That's a cool partnership. Okay, tell everyone, what is Lewie? I want to talk about your current business now. And then you've had this very cool career pivot from what you were doing to now launching a product-based company. So I really want to dive into that. But tell everyone, what is Lewie and why should they care about it? I'm a big fan, but give everyone else the details.
So Lewie is an oral health and beauty company. We make products designed to care for the smile, but we're positioning ourselves in the beauty aisle because that's where smile care belongs. The longest time, it's been, okay, oral health care. You've got your Colgates and your Crests and the people over in that section of Target or Walmart or whatever. But I have been a dentist in private practice for 20 years. I can say that. I graduated dental school in 2004. In 2006, I bought my first dental practice. And so I've been working for myself for quite a while. During that time, I realized that there are a lot of people that, first of all, there's a lot of people that don't like going to the dentist. Oh, shocker. I know. But there's a way to keep yourself from having to go to the dentist for those things you don't want to, like fillings, like deep cleanings. And it's really prevention at home. But there's also a big push, especially for women, to look good, be healthy. The two of those things they go hand in hand. So if you can care for your smile, it makes you more confident. It makes you more beautiful. And we believe that care for the smile should be part of your daily beauty routine. Flossing your teeth should go along with washing your face, putting on your foundation, putting on mascara. But, the great thing about Lewie is when you use Lewie, you can make yourself healthier. And I don't think your mascara can say that. So we've got a one-up on a lot of beauty products, but we're trying to get smile care where it belongs.
That is so cool. Tell me a little bit about how you even got to this place. Because you mentioned you had a private practice. Actually, you've had a couple of them, correct?
Mhm.
Private practices.
Yeah. So I feel like my journey is sometimes a bit of a saga, but it's what it is. The first idea that I had for Lewie's Hero product, which we actually are redeveloping. It's not even part of our line at the current moment, but I was on a vacation with my mother and my sister. We were out and sharing an Airbnb, and they were still in the bathroom getting ready. I was done and I was sitting outside, and we were getting ready to go to dinner. And I realized I had something stuck in my teeth. And I just had my little clutch with me because we were about to walk out the door, and I had my cell phone, I had my ID and a credit card and some lip balm. And I was like, my gosh, this is kind of embarrassing. I'm a dentist and I don't even have a way to get stuff out between my teeth. And I looked at my little lip balm and I'm like, somebody should put lip balm and dental floss in the same container because everyone uses lip balm. And if I could just get everyone to use floss, even just occasionally, it would make them healthier, it would make their smile more radiant, and it would solve this problem for me right here. Everyone says when you invent something or when you figure out who your consumer is and create for them. I was my own person in need. That idea stuck in my head, and it was over a decade later. I, at the time, had 2 practices. I had 2 kids, and I was living in Central Illinois. But that pesky little idea stayed in my head. So I went in search of, has anyone done this? Like, is it out there? And my cousin helped me to find a patent attorney in St. Louis and paid to do a patent search, couldn't find anything. And so I was like, all right, drew my little drawings, talked with them, and ended up filing for a U.S. patent. A couple of little tweaks later, we ended up getting that. But during that journey, I started the process of trying to get it produced. I was in a small town in Central Illinois, so I used what resources were available to me. And honestly, the first person that I worked with was a tooling manufacturer that mostly made automotive parts because I didn't know any better. You have to learn as you go. That is the one thing about, I guess any sort of a pivot, any sort of a change is you've got to realize you don't know everything. The sooner you get to that stage of just being humble and asking for help and direction, the better you'll be. I, as the founder at the time, I had I had 2 dental practices. I had close to 20 employees. And, and in being in a field like that, you're looked up to, you're driving the practice. I'm the, senior most person there, and you don't want to be wrong. Dentists don't want to be wrong. You don't want your dentist to be wrong about what they're doing clinically in your mouth, but the business side of it is a whole nother ballgame. So I was learning as I went along, but I was trying to chip away at a lot of it on my own. So it was a slow process. Ended up getting my first tool made, brought over, designed a lip balm and dental floss 2-in-1, and had a little success bringing it around to some retailers in Central Illinois. And then realized that, I was kind of using a couple friends of mine and I were putting it together, just the main prototype. And we're like, all right, we're going to get this somewhere to produce it. What I had come up with in working with that designer, that automotive parts designer, was something that couldn't be made on a large scale. It was fine for a hobby and for a toy, but, I had to look and go, okay, my $25,000, $30,000 tool wasn't going to take me very far.
Yeah.
So I had a decision to make, and it was just give up and go back or put some money in and try again. At that point, I had gone through a divorce. So my life had I was on my own. I owned the dental practices. I had my kids, my ex-husband and I still get along. We just had a phone call today. But nonetheless, it was really being on my own and saying, all right, do I want to take this risk? And I decided to go ahead and do it. That was in, February of 2020.
Oh, wow.
So great time to try something new. So the development of the next iteration of lip balm and dental floss took me a very long time. Just complications of trying to work remotely, trying to keep my main source of income, my dental practice, trying to keep it up and running. We had to shut down for a few weeks, which put me out here in Scottsdale. My mom was here and I came out and just took a little bit of time. I couldn't work. My ex-husband had the kids and we had an agreement. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to stay out here for a little bit, kind of work and get things done remotely. And then when it was time to go back, I went back. But that really shifted a lot of things for me. The longest I'd ever been away from my kids. So that definitely is different. And it is a different way, I think moving through a transition like that, you just realize things about yourself. I realized I love being out here and being a little bit more remote. You can't be a remote dentist, but it got my mind thinking. And I started thinking about what did I want to do? What did I want to do with this company? I had just made a six-figure investment into trying to get it up and running. And while I was doing that, my dad was out here part of the time too. And my dad actually is the namesake of Lewie. In high school, that was his nickname. And then when I was in school, I have an older sister and people would call her Lewie and then they'd call me Little Lewie. And so it just kind of stuck. I threw it out there in a meeting when we were looking at branding and somebody was like, oh yes, that's the name. I'm like, wow, it seems very self-aggrandizing, but I've learned to really love it. My dad's my first inspiration as an entrepreneur. So that's where I was. I was talking to him about something and he said, I support you and I love what you're doing, but I never carry lip balm. So I'm not going to use your product. You need to make those little floss picks better. And so I was like, okay. And so I drew out a little sample of one, brought it to my designer that I was working on with the lip balm and dental floss. And he turned that into something. And it's the product that Lewie's relaunching with actually. So both of those products are patented. So I have a dual patent on the flossing disc and I have a patent on the lip balm and dental floss that has been issued. So it's an exciting time. It's taken a lot. But the one thing I think that I've learned through all of this is the more qualified people I've surrounded myself with, the individuals who know things that I don't, and my omission that I don't know them has made the company come further in the last year than it did in the struggling of the 3 or 4 years before that when I was trying to handle it all myself. And so that would be a huge piece of advice. Find mentors, find people that can help and know that you don't know everything.
Beautiful advice, because I think there's so many of us that go in at the beginning, which makes sense, right? We go in kind of scrappy and gritty and we're going to do all the things. But whenever you can get to that place to hire coaches or be around people that can help you, it always fast tracks things. So that's great advice. Are you still practicing or did you sell your dental practices?
No. So what I ended up doing, like I said, 2020 changed a lot of things for me. I had been down to Dallas. I had a couple connections down there, but looked at their marketplace. And then the company that I was working with to redesign and relaunch Lewie was a marketing company, but also someone that was facilitating some work over in China to get my tooling made and to get the plastics made that were going into the product. And they had a person that was based in Dallas. And so I'd been down to Dallas. And if you would have told me at the beginning of 2020, hey, at the end of this year, you're going to sell your practice and you're going to move to Texas, I would have laughed. I would have been like, there is no way that's going to happen. But it did. It's exactly what it did. I sold my offices in Illinois to my associates and I moved south to Texas and I bought a dental practice. In the 3 years that followed, 2021 to the beginning of 2024, I grew that dental practice. I just realized that was a skill that I had developed over the prior 15 years was I knew how to run a dental practice. And so I took that practice and I kind of flipped it from something that was very insurance driven, very single tooth type of treatment to more comprehensive treatment, which is what I trained myself to do as a dentist, and ended up selling that at the beginning of this year. After the time of trying to split, really over the past year, 2023 probably changed it the most. I was trying to grow Lewie. I was working on my practice and it was going fine, but there were challenges. Like an interview like this, was going to be hard for me to schedule right in the middle of a patient care day. Getting back to Illinois to visit my kids, getting them down to see me took scheduled time away. I was coming out here to Scottsdale to do some mentoring at the facility where I get to meet with and help other dentists facilitate their learning journey. So I just found myself being pulled and thought, okay, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And actually, when I met you for the first time out in Santa Fe, I just came from there. My kids and I were just in that area right before we came to Arizona. I started thinking about, I'm ready to take the leap, and I put out feelers for selling my practice. I had a buyer pretty quickly present themselves, and so was starting to work on the process of sales. And then in November, very unexpectedly, my mother passed away. And it was almost like this nudge to say, hey, it's okay. Go do it. I just felt a really strong pull that it was time, because I can always go back to being a dentist. That's a skill that, skills that I have at dentistry. It's taken me 20 years to acquire. It's an in-demand thing, but I was ready to try something new. And so that's where I am right now. The first quarter of this year was a huge adjustment, going from being scheduled every 10 minutes for an 8 to 5 job, from that to, okay, now you've got a 9:00 at night phone call with your distributor. Now you've got a podcast that you're going to do. Okay, now we need you to go down to Austin to meet with a group of people. Oh, okay. It's a totally different thing. But what I've found is I've made time for myself. I've always been into exercise. So, I'll go for a run. I will get up and sit down with my thoughts and have a cup of coffee in the morning and not feel rushed about my day. I can visit my kids midweek. I can have them on a month-long trip to launch my product, which is what I'm doing now. And that's something that I could never have done before. So yeah, big changes, but it's really been a lot of fun.
I love that for you. And I'm wondering for people listening that are used to the 10-minute schedule, where you're just like running and gunning during your life. That pivot though takes a little bit of mental adjustment. What has been the biggest shift, or have you felt any unease or tension as you've been, sliding into this life, or has it just kept you busy enough that it feels, mentally stimulating where you're not thinking in the same way? Talk to me about that transition.
Definitely the mental stimulation, 100%, because there's just things going on all the time. But I find myself getting a bit distracted, where I'll run down a rabbit hole of something that I probably didn't need to spend my time on. And the person that catches this more than anyone is the person who's my chief marketing officer and head of sales. He will look at me and say, okay, this company has a goal of being boom. How does what you're doing right now help you with that goal? So I might be spending my time trying to catch this one little thing. He goes, but how in the overall scheme of things does that really help? He goes, if it does, and if you can justify it, by all means, yes. But I was finding myself kind of anytime there was somebody that was a connection, I'd be like, all right, I'll go out to coffee. Okay, yes, I'll meet that. Oh, I need to go to that meeting. Oh, I got to try to get to this connection, because I was used to always moving. And to stop and sit, you start to think of some other things. You start to realize, I'll have, what I used to call like shower moments, that I'd be like, oh my gosh, look, that's an idea. I'm in the shower. And, when you're that's the only time I probably had quiet that I could do. Now, if you sit and, I'll have a morning cup of coffee because I'm not rushed to get out the door, I will have my shower moments more frequently. So it does feed a creative process a little bit more, but that, I think it's getting off of the hamster wheel is needed to do that, to get some reset. Like we had talked about on our retreat, getting into that feminine energy is not something I normally sit with, And I know you've been in the corporate world, and you said, I guess I've been CEO of a dental office since 2006, and
Yeah.
setting yourself back and going, okay, that's something that for me has probably been one of the biggest adjustments.
How long has it taken you? Because I think too, a lot of people want to leave either their jobs or the careers that they've built, dental practice, whatever they have going on. And they have this idea maybe for a product or another service or something else, but that leap feels absolutely terrifying. And they're like, I'm just curious, what would be your advice for those people who, maybe trying to do it on the side, but they're just feeling so burned out because, you said you were doing both and it was a lot. And I'm so sorry about your mom, by the way, but that spark of, okay, I have time, I need to act on this. But what's your advice for someone that's kind of riding two horses right now or needing that space to have those shower moments? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I think COVID changed a lot of things for everybody, but one of the things it did for me was for the first time, I couldn't go to work. We had to I only took about 4.5 weeks off. I was not a fan of sitting around, and I was in a small town and people were like, I'll come in anyways, and they wanted to come back. I had people that were in the middle of procedures that normally I'd be like, oh, you can't go more than 2 weeks without seeing me. And now I'm like, okay, I don't know when you'll get back in. So you start to realize that, first of all, things aren't as urgent as what you maybe put priority on them, but taking that time out. So I guess I would encourage somebody, if you're really burnt out, do a retreat, go on a mini solo vacation even if it's a staycation, like find somewhere like the Bespoke and go sit for a couple days and let the universe kind of talk to you. I think that's what happened to me. I kind of slowed down enough to take some things in. Again, with looking at the reset with the retreat that I met you on, and then with everything happening with my mom, that was a forced pause that got your mind off of some of the other things. And that may have been what it took. Now, I hope it's not a tragic event or anything like that. But also, you can do your research. You can do everything that you think, like, I've got this all mapped out. This is how it's going to go. And I can promise you, if you're doing it right, that's not how it's going to go. And I say that with the best of intentions because it's the changes and the pivots that I've learned more, that I've had, all these coincidental meetings and things. I don't know that it's that. I think it's that I slowed down enough or stopped to listen enough to allow that to come in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. I just recorded, it hasn't been released yet. It will by the time this interview's out. A solo episode kind of talking about my story and getting from, working for someone to leaping. And I had like a plan, a financial plan. I was like trying to control it so much. And it didn't quite end up working that way. It worked out better. It was amazing. But, part of it is just really letting go and trusting, which is terrifying if you're used to running things very type A and you've got this, stuff. I love that advice, Amanda. That's so great.
Yeah, I mean, working as a dentist for my whole career, our tolerances of mistakes are millimeters. So to sit back and go, all right, I really don't know how this is going to go. Hope this is good. And, to be able to let go and release that is something I still struggle with. I still look at, and I've told myself with the same financial plan, I am right now self-funded, although we are going into our first round of investment. And we're doing it from a position of strength, hopefully, as we gain some orders, and it's going to be fulfillment of orders where I'm going to need the financing. So right now, being self-funded is cool because I get to make my decisions and I'm the only one. But being self-funded is scary because I did, just like you said, you set a goal, you set a plan. Okay, here's what I'm going to spend. But then sometimes when I look at that invoice, I've already cleared it in my head. You've already said that's part of what's going to happen. If you lose all of it, you're okay. But there's the part of me that's like, oh. And that's the hardest thing to let go of. And I think, honestly, not promoting it, but going through a divorce was the first time in my life that happened, because I, again, had to look and go, all right, this is you. So here's what the agreement is. Here's what we're going to do. And again, he and I get along. We mediated. We didn't have an ugly fight. It wasn't anything like that. But it was those times that I really held back and went, all right, be careful with this, be careful with this. But then you realize you have to. You've got to let go. You've got to spend something. And it was in the doing something I thought I'd never do, never thought I'd get divorced, that you learn your ability to get back up. Like if you fall. So I have become much more confident in my ability to fail and pivot away from it. It's like once you start changing what you thought you knew, and you started accepting that, I guess I don't know, that, if you have a continual ability to learn, you have a continual ability to change. And more than anything, you have that continued ability to grow. But if you stop telling yourself that you can fail, you stop growing, because growth happens when you fall down and pick yourself back up.
Yeah. It's definitely a muscle to learn, right? I'm sure over the last 20 years with your practices, you've built that muscle of leading a team, trying different things, growing, and then getting to that growth edge where you can move past it. And yeah, I think our personal challenges and also supports, what we're doing in business. So
yeah, I think the admission of failure is one of the key things to moving forward, growing a business, growing as a person. And that is probably one of the harder things, I think, for most individuals to do. Nobody likes to be wrong. It doesn't.
How did you get there? Because as you said, you are working with millimeters where mistakes are nothing. How did your brain get to that place where you're like, this is actually okay. I'm actually going to be okay with this? Because you're right. Like no one likes to be wrong, but how did you get there? What did you do, or what practices do you do to get to that place? Because we haven't talked about failure a lot on this podcast. I would love to hear your take on that.
So I think one of the things that happened to me was right before I turned 40, right before I went through the process of getting a divorce, I met a group of individuals that were also dentists, but seemed to be so much more accomplished than me. And at first I was like, what am I doing wrong? It's just like the one was a speaker, the other one was a writer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like you are my age. This one's 2 years younger. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I must be, so I'm like, I suck. Then that made me go, all right, I want to grow and get better. And in the first way that I did that was going, oh my gosh, once I stepped out of my little bubble of living in a small town and doing that, and I always did all continuing education. I really thought I was doing a great job. It's not that I wasn't, I just changed my viewpoint. Now, what did those people have looking back? Neither of them had children at the time. Neither of them had 2 dental practices that they were running. It wasn't, I just looked at it from a different lens. So that change of my view had me thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not living up to what I could be. So then I started thinking I had really screwed up. Again, like I said, looking back, it was just, we put priority on different things. So I shifted and I started putting myself out there a little bit more. I think that's one of the things that I didn't immediately say, I'm going to put myself out there so I can fail. I think it was shown to me that I could be more, that I could grow more. And so that's what made me go, all right, I'm going to go ahead and try this. So it was looked at as a gross thought. But then I think as I started to change and really learn a lot more about how to become a more comprehensive dentist, a better communicator probably, and just, I had always tried to do a lot of things with leadership and especially leading a team of women. But again, when you go through leadership, it's I'm at the top. How do you rise? How do you lead people? How do you do this? There wasn't a lot of that was like, all right, how do you gracefully fail in front of people? It was me just getting out there and finding mentors, finding people that I knew were better than me in aspects that I wanted to grow in, that made me realize that, yes, I had a lot of growth I could still do. But, it was probably when I moved to Dallas, it was pretty lonely. I left not only my kids and the people that I knew that I'd surrounded myself with for 10 to 15 years, some of my employees, I had the girls that I worked with and a couple friends down in Dallas, but I hired a life coach for the first time. I tried to do the online therapy thing and it just honestly wasn't for me.
Okay.
A life coach is somebody who you could say it is almost like therapy in a certain way, but she's the one that kind of taught me that, what you think and what you feel, that's a reaction to something. So if you break things down and go, this is what happened, And my choices decide how to react to it. So like when I met those people that I thought were more successful to me, my thought was, I'm not successful, they are. Oh, no, if I really turned and looked at that a different way, it was in this angle, they're doing this, my reaction could be this. And so it again kind of helped. It's slowing down your thought process, honestly. When you really break it down, it's don't directly jump to a conclusion, pause and go, all right, what just happened and how do I want to choose to react to it?
Mm. I think reframing our stories is one of our greatest superpowers. So I love that she was able to help you through that, because I had a coach once that made us do like 7 interpretations of a specific event or a reaction from something. And that was really hard because we come in looking at it from a certain way, and then to try to come up with all these different, why'd someone cut me off
And
for traffic, right? Because
why
they
and
hate
why
me.
is it?
No.
Why is it that it's easier to be negative? That it's easier to go,
Yeah.
well, they don't like me. That's what
Yeah.
happened. Versus saying, no, I wonder if they learned anything from me.
Yeah.
We are just, I think, almost shaped or programmed to have a negative thought. And one of the coolest things about this little journey I'm on with my kids is my son is the older one. He's a little bit more serious. My daughter last night, we went to watch the sunset at it was a little outside rooftop place on top of a hotel just right down the street. And she's out there dancing to like 90s music, just doing her thing. And she's got not a care in the world. And I'm there like, oh my gosh. But it's great. It does kind of teach you she's not afraid of how she looks in front of people. She's 9. And now I'm biased. I happen to think she's cute as a button when she's out there doing that. But even if she wasn't, I don't even think it enters into her brain. So I don't know at what point we get conditioned to wonder what's around us, but it is the point that I know she's coming up on and my son is getting into. You have kids and when they get to the point that us as parents can embarrass them, I'm like, whoops, you've hit the point where now you care about what other people think and you start to have a concern outside of, I'm just out here to have fun. So
Right.
I think continuing to keep a little bit of that childhood confidence, but all right, I got this,
Yeah.
is important to, again, I think I've said it before, but realizing that it's okay if you fail or it's okay if you look silly because everybody does. And the quicker that you get that back from what you had it when you were a kid and that the better off you'll be.
Kids are such beautiful teachers. And I think, we do get conditioned to why they care, what I do this. But I think especially you've lived your life, especially the last few, saying I moved away from my kids to Dallas to do this thing. Like you're doing things in a way that is not quite the norm, which is amazing because you're showing your kids and the people around you, there are other ways to do this and to do it well and to still do it with love and integrity. And I think you being able to take your kids on this road trip and show them the behind the scenes, like what a gift for your family. I absolutely love it.
So I right now have 4 interns working with me that we're scrappy. Again, being self-funded, you've got to do what you can. So I approached the teams that I had from University of Texas at Dallas and said, you guys have done an excellent job on the project this summer. Is anyone interested? Let me know if anyone has an interest of interning to help set up my social media, get TikTok and Instagram shop up and running, help get them funneled to the website, work with influencers, all of that stuff that I'm 45 years old. Social media isn't natural to me. I can post a hell of an Instagram story, but it's about the only thing I'm very comfortable doing. They were like, 4 of them immediately were like, yes, we're in. So I said, all right, guys, I found a compensation structure that I thought would work and reward them for how they did. And so they got me to buy this camera and I'm recording so much stuff from this trip. Worst case scenario, no one sees it and it doesn't make an impact and it does absolutely nothing. Except for the 2 little people on this trip that will have the best documented family vacation that we could imagine. So I think that in itself is a beautiful thing. And I'm really grateful to those girls for helping me with it. But they're framing it in such a way. They just put out like one of the first or second videos today, starting to document the journey and putting together and editing the things that I give them. But they're the ones that have been like, you just have to get out there and record this and do that. Man, that's not me. I am not one of those people that just sits there and has my camera and talks to it. And I'm doing my best, but my kids are honestly better at it. And having them with me gives me a little boost of confidence, but then also working with these 20 and 30-year-olds, mostly 20-year-olds, one of them is 30, and they're helping me to realize that there is a story to tell. And I think everyone has a little bit more than what they realize that could be interesting to people. Because some of the things that I do, they're like, oh, no, that's very interesting. So it still is this kind of baffling area that I don't understand. So I'm so appreciative that I've got that group of individuals that are here working with me. And they're just, like I said, they're doing a great job. It makes it a little bit more fun knowing that, I need to get them some content and some information, and they try to give me direction. So happy to learn.
Mm-hmm. If someone's thinking about starting their own product business, because I think services, I have services for the entirety of my entrepreneur life, but products are quite different. We have a couple product clients, and there's a lot that goes into it. If you could go back in time to the very beginning when you first had your idea, what would be kind of the strategy or the first, 5 steps that you would take? Because adding on social, adding on branding, all these pieces are part of the puzzle. But go back to the beginning and give me, like, if you could go back and redo it, knowing what you know now.
So I have made so many mistakes. I don't know how many of them I would have cut out because I learned something every time. But I think it's funny when, I'll tell people, oh, yeah, I've invented this. And the number one thing that I hear is, you should go on Shark Tank. Don't go on Shark Tank, because you've got to have something about your business that to be able to get up in front of people and to say, I have this many sales, this is my cost of goods, all these numbers that at the time of launching something, you don't know. You've got to get your feet wet. To me, one of the best things that I did was I found mentors. I found them through a group called actually Founders Institute. It is an international organization. They happen to have a chapter in Dallas. And I went through an accelerator, and that connected me to so many people. So again, I think the first thing is find other people that are doing or have done what you want to do. And then validate your idea. Because I've had a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I think X, Y, and Z would be cool. You should do this, or I've thought about doing this. And sometimes it's stuff that's already been tried and it didn't work. Now, maybe you could do it in a different way, and that's totally fine. But the process of making a product, if it's a craft, like let's say you're making bracelets by hand and you're going to go sell them at a stand, that's great. You can change your bracelet shape, size, color, and that's fine. But when you're running a product, like doing tooling is expensive. Doing tooling is an overseas thing. It's something that now I'm looking at shipping from a foreign country into the United States. Now I realized after a shipment of floss that I have to have an FDA license because floss is a class 1 medical device. So you learn about all these things as you go. Be okay with learning as you go. If you're not okay to make some mistakes, I wouldn't start the journey, because you're going to make some mistakes if you're doing it right. But yeah, validate your idea, find mentors that can help guide you along the way, and they'll help you avoid some of the costly mistakes. You're still going to make some, but yeah, pivoting in a product that is a manufactured product takes a bigger pivot. That's one of the things we're doing now with the lip balm and dental floss, is reimagining it, redesigning it. But again, it had to go through that trial process where I made it, realized the things in it that didn't work well, listen to feedback from consumers, and make changes to it. So
that's great advice. That's wonderful advice. How big of a role do you think personal branding will play in Lewie as you move forward? Because you are the face, but it's also the product. Talk to me about where are your thoughts landing now that you've been, actually launching. What does personal branding mean?
So for the last, really, I'll say 3 or 4 months, but it's probably been before that, probably 6 months to a year, it's been made more and more clear that in order to launch this and be successful at it, I have to get out in front of the camera. I have to be the face of my product. As a dentist, being the face of my business, it's not like it was me. I had a skill. I was doing a job with my hands, and it wasn't about me. It was about the patient. This product is about the people it's going to serve. But in a sea of so much competition, people want authenticity. They want to know that there's a real person behind the product, that there's a story, but also that I have credibility. And that's one of the things that people ask me, do you miss being a dentist? No. And it's not that I don't love dentistry, that I don't so much respect it because it got me here, but it also makes me a credible person for the products that I've designed. I needed to make the floss pick better. It shouldn't be a pick. Don't pick at your gums. You should use it as something that is simple, discreet, and on the go. Took chemicals out of the whitening pen that didn't need to be there, put in essential oils. And it's those things. I know my product. I know why it's there. I know what its intention is, and I can direct people on how to use it. So I think that personal side of it, that personal branding side isn't it always people say what scares you the most is what will set you free? Like getting out behind the camera and recording something and worrying about looking bad and what am I going to say? And I had a double chin in that take. That picture was bad. Those are the things that I need to let go of because it stops me from getting the message out of my company. So yeah, personal branding. I know it's what I'm going to be doing, and it's something that I can't say I look forward to, but I'm getting much better at it. Thank you to the people around me and to the interns that I've hired.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great to have like a cheerleading squad helping because it is
Yes.
vulnerable to start showing up on camera and to do it authentically and not with, 50 filters on your face and just be like doing it. I mean, that's a whole thing these days. So
Oh my gosh,
I love this for you.
Are so good at it. And I'll look at that and go, how do they look that good? I don't know where that filter is. What? So that's yeah. Most of my things are pretty authentic because I just don't know any better. I don't know how to if I knew how to make myself look better, I wouldn't be doing a lot of that. I would.
Keep going. Because I think that's what people need to see. And it gives other people permission to also show up authentically, which is really hard to do in this social media world.
Hey, again, that's all about accepting. And this is something I've gotten better at doing in business and in planning is knowing that I can fail. I just have to do that on camera. It's, you're your own worst critic. The bottom line.
Absolutely. You mentioned essential oils. I want to talk about this manufacturing piece for just like a second, because I do think as we're creating products in the world and we're being very conscious about the products that we're creating or consuming, what made you decide to create products that are better for our health? Because you can take a lot of shortcuts here, right? There's a lot of things you can do. Talk to me about this.
I don't like using things that have a lot of chemicals. I don't like using a lot of things that have a big have a harmful impact to the environment. I am not perfect. There is nothing that in our products that is 100% perfect. But I wanted to take out all right, so I've got my little whitening pen sitting next to me here. Yeah, I whiten my teeth. I like whiter teeth. They look better. They make people more confident. When you have a whiter smile, it can improve your overall mental health because you share it and you use it more. So in creating products, I had to do something that I would actually want to use. And I looked at what was in a lot of the commercially available whitening pens. I stripped out anything that didn't need to be there. So there's a list of ingredients and all of them I can read. That's some of them. I'm like, what is this? Why would you put a dye in a whitening pen? Like a food coloring? I have no clue. So my cousin's she's a holistic esthetician and master herbalist, and she's the one that helped me pick out some of the formulation. She's also who is developing our lip balm. We used bergamot, which is an antibacterial natural essential oil. And then we also used oil of clove, which has been used for centuries as an anti-inflammatory and soothing medicament in dentistry. It still is in a chemical that's sometimes used in a temporary, like if you break a tooth and there's stuff that's available over the counter, you will sometimes see eugenol or oil of clove in it. So we added that to our whitening pen to make it as beneficial as possible, as neutral as possible, and also effective. So safe and effective. I let my kids use it. I use it quite often. Currently, I have braces, so I just use it around that. And I actually can use the little brush part of it, the little tip, as a quick fix up if I am somewhere to get things out from around these lovely little metal brackets. But the other thing that I did, the flossing disc is made out of biodegradable material and it's packaged in recyclable and recycled packaging. So those are things that if you start to look, this is one of those things that somebody pointed it out to me and now I see it all the time. When you walk, you'll find floss picks everywhere. You'll see it in like a planter. You'll sometimes see one in a trash can, but they're on the sidewalk and they're They're all over. So the impact that we can have by trying to manufacture them in a more responsible way, I think, is a big one. So.
And I'm just going to put in a plug for, both your products, because you sent some to me and my kids are obsessed with the floss discs. I need to order a whole bunch more once they're like fully live because they stole them and won't give them back. But such great products, like super easy to use, beautiful. Your branding is beautiful. Like I'm so excited for this next, for your launch and to be out in the world because I think it's going to be amazing.
I want people to care for their smile on the go, which is what the first part of our collection's about, is if you can just start incorporating, oh yeah, I've got to touch up my lipstick and I've got to use my little flossing disc when I'm in the bathroom at a restaurant or on a date. Boom. Now you've just incorporated flossing. So maybe when you get home, you're going to be like, oh, I probably should floss. Yeah, you should. If we can get people to start thinking about it in a way that is a bit more just top of mind. It's not something that is put over here as this thing that I do just before I go to bed at night. I forgot, again, I've got a 12-year-old. She forgets to brush his teeth sometimes.
Right. Right. I mean, kids and teeth. Right. When my kids were like, we love this, I was like, amazing. Because, trying to floss a 4-year-old's teeth is the worst. I know you're targeting a different market, but great for moms. I love that. Amanda, tell me, because you have so much business knowledge, you're obviously rocking this new version, but is there like one last piece, you've given us a lot, one last piece of advice or like a book that you love, or you talked about your accelerator, but is there like a specific thing that you'd love to just leave with all of my listeners that might be helpful for them?
I think one of the things that in wrapping it up is if you have an idea, don't be scared of it. Look at what you can do to figure it out. Find a mentor and learn quickly that it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to quote fail.
So good. Where can people find you?
We are at mylewie.com. Our social handles are mylewie, MYLEWIE, and I'm Dr. Amanda Lewis, just Dr. Amanda Lewis. And we have chronicled our journey. I know by the time this is coming out, I think I will be about done with my trip, and hopefully we will be live online and starting to come into retailers. We've got some exciting meetings coming up this next quarter. So yeah, fingers crossed for us and lots of love and light, because I hope to be able to get Lewie out into a lot more hands.
You will. It's going to be amazing and your success is inevitable. So Amanda, thank you so much for being here with me. And yes, everyone go find Amanda, follow my Lewie and buy the stuff. I can fully support all of it because I've tried it and I love it. So anyway, Amanda, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today with us.
Hey, thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Business Origin Stories. Love the podcast? Be sure to share it with a friend or colleague and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Join me on Instagram and make sure to sign up for our weekly email.